Number 8, Hermes family. The Hermes family is another family that has the fashion industry to thank for their $63.9 billion fortune. The Hermes brand deals in a wide range of luxury fashion goods that include jewelry, handbags, perfumes, and scarves, among others. But when the company was started in 1837, the focus wasn't this wide. Thierry Hermes, the founder, specialized in making harnesses solely for European nobles. The company saw a diversified inventory once his son and later grandsons took over, and while it survived just fine for a long time, the 1970s had presented a rather shaky landing. Sales were on the decline despite other companies in the same space doing pretty well. The fortunes turned around in 1978 when Jean-Louis Dumas took over. He revamped much of the company's offerings, which skyrocketed annual revenues from $50 million when he took over to a whopping $460 million in 1990. Today, Hermes takes in over $6 billion in annual revenue, an indication that the family's wealth is going to be around for quite some time. Number 7, the Albrecht family. The family is worth $41 billion, and their fortune has been fought over many times. The family has had quite a few legal battles over control of the vast empire, something that isn't anything new. In the 1960s, the brothers and co-founders, Theo and Carl Albrecht, decided to split the company they had worked so hard to build. Long story short, they couldn't agree on the direction of the company. So instead of just Aldi, today we have Aldi Nord and Aldi Süd, with each of the brands with thousands of stores worldwide. They all can be traced back to their mom's original grocery store. Now, with both the brothers on to the next world, Theo's part of the fortune remains contested. At the center of it all is his daughter-in-law's supposed flaunting of the family wealth. Her lifestyle goes against Albrecht's insistence on living a modest life. This is something that Theo himself reportedly expressed concern over. More concerns were voiced by his wife Silly in her will. She accused her daughter-in-law and the kids of blowing millions of dollars on luxury. In August of 2020, Theo's grandson, Nicolai Albrecht, sued his own mom and his sisters for allegedly embezzling funds from the family trust. All these disputes have, of course, cast gloom over the survival of the empire. But with the billions of dollars still rolling in every year, it'll be a while before we can see anything substantial. Number 6, Thompson family. Canada's richest family draws in $40.6 billion saved in Thomson Reuters. They essentially are dealers of financial data and services. The journey to the top began with Roy Thomson back in 1931 with his first media investment. That was an Ontario-based radio station. A year later, he added yet another media company into his portfolio by acquiring the Timmins Daily Press. Another year after that, he purchased the Scotsman newspaper. You can guess what he kept on doing. He continued acquiring controlling stakes in major media players, which include the Sunday Times and the Times. Through his lifetime, Roy accumulated over 200 newspapers in Canada, the UK, and the US, making him Canada's biggest media owner. Besides the majority stake in Reuters, the family also owns the Globe and Mail newspaper, and they also have a stake in the telecommunications firm, Bell Canada. Number 5.
There's 100 grand up for grabs every week with the NRL's new free-to-play game, NRL Pick'em Weekly 4. Pick the winning margin from 4 nominated matchups to win a share of every major prize. Head to nrl.com for a sticker now.
Beringer von Bombach family. This family is one of the oldest wealth empires still surviving today. The family has been around for the last 130 years, and they're still going strong. At the empire's center is the pharmaceutical company Beringer Ingelheim, founded by Albert Beringer in 1885. That was the year when Albert bought a small tartar factory in Germany. The following year, the factory began producing tartaric acid such as for baking soda and carbonated beverages. The family has a net worth of roughly $45.7 billion. But of course, this is just speculation since the giant company the family has is still completely privately owned and ran. While Albert passed away in 1939, the company still became one of the biggest companies in its niche. Today, Beringer is the second largest pharmaceutical company in Germany and ranks among the top 20 in the world. For the actual family, that's pretty much all there is to know. The Beringer von Bombach family is notoriously secretive. Just like the Alberts, they stay out of the limelight as much as possible, and they hardly grant interviews. Not much is known about them, except, of course, that they're behind one of the world's biggest drug manufacturers. Number 4, Johnson family. The Johnson family is another wealthy dynasty that prefers to stay in the shadows for the most part, and that's not only on personal matters, but also much of their business interests. But what's known is that they have a 49% stake in Fidelity Investments, and it makes up a significant portion of their $46.3 billion empire. Founded in 1946 by Edward Johnson II, Fidelity has grown to a customer base of more than 30 million people with over $3.5 trillion in retirement savings. By September 2020 figures, this makes Fidelity the second largest mutual fund company after Vanguard. At the head of the family is the founder's granddaughter, Abigail Johnson, arguably one of the most powerful executives in the finance world. She took over as CEO from her dad in 2014 and became the firm's president 2 years later. Her position was only natural if you think about it. She'd been working at the company on a part-time basis since college. She went full-time in 1988 after graduating from Harvard Business School. With her 24.5% stake in the company, she's worth $15 billion, making her one of the wealthiest women in the world. Number 3, House of Saudi. The royal family of Saudi Arabia, being among the wealthiest families, shouldn't come as a surprise. The monarchy controls about 15% of the world's oil reserves. That gives the family access to an almost endless amount of wealth. In fact, their combined net worth could be way much more than the estimated $95 billion, since the total wealth is controlled by over 15,000 royals. Besides oil, the royal family members also make much of their money from doing business with the government. Much of this business is land deals or businesses that service state companies. Saudi Aramco, for instance, is the most profitable company in the world. It's mainly controlled by the Saudi government, and we all know who the Saudi government is. Exactly how the Saudi royals spend their billions isn't always an open book, but the current crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, seems to be a different case. The future king is known to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on yachts, mansions, and art pieces. His $450 million purchase of Leonardo da Vinci's painting is the most expensive in history. Number 2, Thai royal family. Thailand's King Ronald X has always been known for his extravagant lifestyle, which is a stark contrast to his father's thrifty ways. But maybe it's not so surprising considering he's now considered the richest king alive. With a net worth of over $40 billion, he's miles ahead of some of the richest hereditary rulers like the Saudi king, the British royal family, and the Sultan of Brunei, in theory. In some countries, just because you don't own it doesn't mean you don't control it. How the Thai monarchy grabbed that much wealth has a lot of people in his country concerned. To understand the situation, it's important to look at how the monarchy's assets were managed before the current king's reign. Under Thailand's constitution, again, before King Ronald X's reign, the wealth was controlled by the Crown Property Bureau. It was managed by a board of members, the majority of them appointed by the king. The wealth was the crown's property rather than an individual monarch. But in 2018, the Thai king overturned that ruling and thus moved the money to be under his direct control. That's easily the shortest route to having a lot of money. Thailand's government has budgeted over $1 billion to finance the monarchy in 2020, all while Thailand's economy is shrinking. It's most likely the Thai protests against the monarchy that were happening throughout 2020 will most likely still